Hello, and welcome to another video. So, as you guys know, I just got back from basic training yesterday, and I feel like this is a very important video for me to make. So I have a lot of videos coming for you guys, especially those of you who are going off to basic training. But this one is the most important one in my opinion, because this is information that I didn't get wind of. I wasn't really told. Even at basic training, I wasn't told. I saw it and experienced it firsthand. And I want you to know these things before you go, before you either go to basic or before you embark on the journey to joining the military. However, I'm gonna put this disclaimer in here. I realize that everyone's experience is different. People who were there with me had different experiences. But I want to be honest with you and say that the possibility of you not having a good experience is very high, especially if you are like me. And I'm just gonna say it like that. So when I say like me, I mean like me, woman like me. I'm also not saying that this video will not be helpful if you are not a woman and you are not a person of color. I'm just saying that your experience might vary greatly if we don't fall into the same categories on all fronts, okay? I will say that. Also, I realize that this is gonna be like a touchy subject, kinda. I didn't really, plan out my questions in that way, but it might be for some people. You might have had a bad experience, you might have had a great experience, and you don't want to talk about bad experiences. This is not gonna be the video for you. Don't even watch it, okay? Because the recklessness down in the comments will be deleted and you will be blocked, okay? Because I want people to know, like, I want people to get a full picture, not just the roses and fairy tales, but the other stuff as well, okay? So without further ado, let's get into today's video. All right, so you guys know that I went to basic training at ft.Sill. I went during the winter cycle. And before I get to these questions, let me say that be wise in choosing when you go to basic training and pay attention to the area. So you tend to get punished with the elements. So if you go when it's too hot, I imagine it'll be bad too. When you go when it's too cold, if you go when it's too cold, it's pretty bad, okay? I had frost nip, and still have some of the symptoms of like having frost nip. And like I went outside for a run this morning and my hands felt like they weren't there. That's from standing outside in the cold without the proper attire on, like being told to strip down to your summer PTs when it's 22 degrees outside. So just be wise when you in choosing when you want to go. And if your recruiter is telling you like, oh, you have to go now, don't listen to the recruiter. They have to meet numbers. You need to do what's best. I would say the best time to probably go would be in the fall, like I said, depending on which basic training you're going to, because ft.Sill, like I'm coming from Houston, so ft.Sill was it was cold. I ain't gonna lie, it was cold. It was cold, and they have like a different kind of cold. Like it's a very windy cold. So it might have been 22, 25 degrees, but with the winds at 33 miles per hour, it feels like 10 degrees sometimes. So it's really cold, and you have to sleep outside and stuff like that. And I will say that with the winter cycle, because we had that holiday block leave, the training is very smushed together, so it leaves a lot less room for you to make mistakes. And when I say mistakes, it's like you didn't meet certain qualifications, so your probability of being recycled is very high if you do a winter cycle as well. If you're a person who doesn't exercise a lot, like you don't run and stuff like that, we didn't do a lot of running except towards the end. So like there's still my battery doesn't graduate for another week or so. So they just started running maybe like a week and a half ago. So if you weren't running before, that's a part of the ACFT is to be able to run 2 miles. It might be very challenging. And then there's just a lot of things that they had to squeeze in, like us taking drug screenings and just little things, planning our travel for holiday block leave that took away some of those extra training days. So that's something to consider. But with all that out of the way, let's get into the questions that I have here on my paper. The first one is, you can't just leave, okay? I did not know that. And when I say you can't just leave, you know how you have a job, and you guys will see in the other video, I did not have a good experience. It doesn't matter how somebody's treating you. It doesn't matter if you're being abused. you can't just leave. You're not just going to leave out of there. And even if you do go through the process of leaving, which is chaptering out, I have a video for you guys coming up about how you chapter out, like how I chaptered out, my experience. But I can't tell you how to chapter out because everyone's experience is going to be different. I witnessed a guy who he was like suicidal, threatening to kill himself, all this kind of these things like this, and they sent him to chapter out, like to, we called it chapter Charlie 95th, and then they took him from Charlie and sent him to basic training. And it was really sad because he was crying and like excited to be going home because he didn't realize that the environment would trigger him in that way. But if you are that person that happens to you, that you're triggered by the environment and just the overall treatment, just know that you can't just go home. You're not just going home, okay? And even if you are in the process of going home, it's about, I mean, it could be 2 weeks, 2 additional weeks, up to like a month, like for you to even go home. If you get hurt, you could be there up to 6 months, like in the process of going home. So just know that you can't just go home, okay? Even if something happens at home, somebody dies or something like that, or somebody gets sick, yes, they can send a Red Cross message, but I'm telling you, you can't just go home. And I put second swear-in. So I want you to know that, so the first, I did 2 swear-ins at my MEPS. The first swear-in, I realized once I got to basic training, was a complete, I won't say joke, but it was kind of trying to scare you into coming back for your second swear-in, which at the second swear-in, they told us, this is the official one. This is the one that's going to put you on payroll. This is the one that counts. So they didn't tell us that at the first swear-in, but at the second one, I didn't realize that I had an opportunity to change my mind. I would not have changed my mind at that point, like in the process, but I'm just telling you that if you have 2 swear-ins, like if you're coming back to MEPS to ship out, you have the opportunity to change your mind. And if you are already like leaning on the fence, if you don't want to do this, you better make up your mind before you get to MEPS that last time, before you are put on the airplane because they bought you an Army ticket, okay? They bought you a ticket to basic training. You better make up your mind then, because if you don't, you could be sitting there for quite some time. Okay, so in the same loop of you can't just go home, I also want you to know that you can be there for a long time, which I just told you. But I have a few examples here of things that could cause you to be there for a long time, and this isn't even the full list. So there was a guy who was in my battery who he went through his full basic training, so he was a graduate, and he was waiting to go to AIT, but they lost his paperwork. So first he was under investigation. So you could be under investigation for a bunch of things. Maybe you had, you were fraternizing, you had a relationship within it could be anything. Like it could be something extreme, it could be something small. They could put you under investigation if they see fit. So he was under investigation after his graduation, and they held him there. Well, after the investigation cleared, he still didn't go off to AIT. So when it was time for him to go off to AIT, they realized that they had lost his paperwork. And I thought it wasn't a big deal. Like, okay, well, they lost your paperwork. That means you'll be going in a few weeks. I witnessed them telling him, hey, you'll go this week, you'll go this week, you'll go this week. And he never went. And then he told me one day, like, we were walking from the DFAC. He said that he was actually, so it's January, right? He was actually supposed to graduate from AIT in December. We were at the beginning of January. He's supposed to graduate from AIT in December, and he hadn't even begun. He was still held at basic training because they lost his paperwork. Okay. And I left. I did a full chapter out process, and he's still there. So the process of you sitting there could be a very lengthy one. And the crazy part is he wasn't going active duty. He was National Guard. So, thinking that you're going to be home in December and not being able to go home until June, it weighs on the psyche. And I witnessed him depressed, and they don't really care about that stuff. So I just want you to know that that could happen to you. You could be there for a long time. Another thing is there was a few people. I witnessed 3 people in Charlie, which is the chaptering process. We're going to call it Chapter Charlie. I witnessed 3 people in Chapter Charlie who had low anemia, low oxygen, things like that. But I had a Bay leader when I came into reception that was there. I told you guys in that reception video, for 8 weeks. I think she ended up being there for about either 9 or 10 weeks after it was all said and done. And even people she was there longer, because when I was at Charlie, some of the girls were like, yeah, they knew the Bay leader. So she didn't leave, like she was there a long time because she had low iron. So just keep that in mind. I told you guys that if I were you, I would get my own blood work done. I wouldn't leave it up to MEPS to do my blood work. and just get tested for things like the sickle cell trait was one of the things I saw. It doesn't disqualify you, but just know if you have it. One of the girls in my who was at Charlie, she had the sickle cell trait, but she had a lot of the symptoms that are correlated to sickle cell. So just get, if you think something is up, get tested, because once you get there, it's going to be a totally different experience for you. Okay, so just make sure you test all those things, because you could be held at reception, for months on end, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 months. I can't give you a date of when you're going to leave. You could just be held there. And I know somebody's going to say, oh, that's fine, I'm getting held there and I'm being paid, but you're getting held there and it's very like prison-like. I'm just saying. Okay, I'm just saying, just let you know. Another thing is if you break something. So let's say you break something in training. You cannot just go home. You have to go to what we call Broken Bravo, which is so there's reception, which is Alpha 95th. There's Bravo 95th, and there's Charlie 95th. Reception is when you come in. Bravo is, we call it Broken Bravo. So it's like if you get hurt, you have to go there. And Charlie is when you're chaptering out. So if you get hurt really hurt in training, they'll send you to Bravo so that you can heal. Like if you're so hurt that you can't walk, you need a surgery or something like that, you're gonna have to go to Bravo. You could stay at Bravo for, a year. You could be at Bravo for a very long time. No one can give you a time as when you're gonna leave Bravo, because they go through phases. So they have their own kind of basic training within Bravo. It looked like a nursing home over there when I went over there. Very depressing, okay? Very, very depressing. You don't want to be a part of that. And a lot of people thought the probability of me getting hurt is very low. No, it's very high. If you're a person who not even just doesn't work out, you're just not used to doing any activity, people think this because you're small and you meet the weight requirements, that means that you're in shape, and that's not true. If you go from sitting on your couch doing absolutely nothing to doing the type of workouts, the type of strenuous activity that they have you do, there's a very high chance that you will get hurt. But if you get hurt, if you go to sick call, you will be placed on profile. And when you're placed on profile, you cannot do the workouts. You can't do the graduation requirements. And because you can't do the graduation requirements, that means you won't graduate on time. That's how you get recycled, okay? So you could be recycled up to 2 times. So you could complete 3 cycles, really. Think about how long that is. So 3, 6, 9, you could be there for 9 months. And that's not even including, let's say you got hurt in between let's say they recycled you twice and you got hurt in the second cycle. You could be there for up to a year. I'm just saying, you don't get to go home. If you break your leg, you don't get to say, oh, well, my mom, I have a doctor at home and my mom said that I could, no, nobody cares. You're going to be there. Okay, just want to let you know that. Con leave. So con leave, I will put the terminology on the screen if I can find it, but con leave is basically when you're something medical happened to you and you get a chance to go home for 30 days and come back. At this point, you are still in the Army. So you still have to report. You still have to comply. You are not free. And when they tell you that you report back, you still have to report back or you are considered AWOL. I witnessed a girl going through con leave, and I think she should just went through the chapter out process like me, but she did not. So if, let's say you go on con leave and you come back and you're still hurt, you're still not better. So when you go on con leave, you come back, and you're still gonna have to go through the chaptering out process. You don't just get to say, oh, I'm hurt, I'm still hurt, I get to stay at home. No, you still have to go back to basic training and chapter out the correct way. All right, so let's move on to the next one. Is your family can't do anything to help you. Unless your family is in the military, in the branch specifically, the Army, I would say just in the military in general, probably, but let's say they're not in the Army. Let's say they're specifically in the Army. Unless they are higher ranking, they can't do anything to help you. And when I say help you, I mean, if you're being, like I said, mistreated, abused, whatever you feel you need their help with, they can't do nothing for you. The Army operates under their own system of they have their own kind of justice system thing going on. You know what I mean? So don't think that I'm about to call my mama and tell on them, and it's not happening. It's not working. You probably are going to have it worse for calling and telling your parents anything. I witnessed people's parents going on Facebook and posting stuff, and then them being basically harassed and punished back at the battery. Or I remember one girl's parents called the MPs, I haven't heard from her. And then she was kind of like harassed back at the battery. So they can't do anything to help you. But you might think that they can, but they can't. I'm letting them know that they can't, letting you know that they can't. And if you have that type of parent who's like, oh, you're going to be the one that suffers because of it. Just putting it out there, okay? Let's move on to the next. This might come as a surprise, but probably not. The opportunity is not equal. They have an equal opportunity program. They have a SHARP program that deals with like sexual harassment and stuff like that. And the equal opportunity program is basically, equal opportunity. You know what equal opportunity is. It's not equal. What they've done, which is bizarre, is they've taken people of color to be in charge of people of color, as if to say that every person of color has the best interest of another person of color at heart. It's a very weird thing that they've done, but basically all the EO officers that I've seen on all the posters, even with outside of my battery, just in other batteries, are people of color, and they're supposed to be looking after the well-being of other people of color, but that's not what's happening. Okay. So if you think because there's some sort of program rolled out, you're going to have this equal opportunity, no, you're not. Don't even. Just leave that there, okay? Just leave that there. Let's move on to the next thing before I say too much. Right, you would think that this would be kind of common sense, but I guess it's not. You need to be able to run and you need to be able to do push-ups. I would say all the other workouts, they'll probably just come to you, like come to your body. But the two that are the most challenging, planks too, but they're not going to be having you doing like planks like that when they're smoking you. You need to be able to run, because run helps you in a bunch of ways. Like running helps you with your endurance in general. Our bay was on the 4th floor, so if you can't run up 4 flights of stairs, let's say 19 times a day, you're gonna be in trouble. And just running in general, I would say learn how to run. I have videos for you guys on that. I use the Nike Run Club app to like do a training program. However, I've been running since high school and I'm 29. So I did a run this morning. So just get comfortable with running, learn how to pace yourself when running. It's very important. Learn how to run. If you don't know how to run, you'll have a hard time. And it's not because we did a winter cycle. It's not that they ran a lot. It's just running, like I said, helps you with all those other endurance markers. And the other thing, like I said, is know how to do push-ups. Especially for women, I was teaching the girls in the bay how to do push-ups at reception, and just what to focus on. A lot of people do this little push-up where they have their neck down and like their butt in the air. Just posture this all bad, just messing up your back. Learn how to do push-ups, okay? I have a video on here of me doing push-ups in preparation. Go find it. I'll link it if I can. Just learn how to do push-ups. Learn how to do the right push-ups for your body. Some people do them, wider. Some people pull their hands in. It's just going to depend on how strong your chest is, how strong your arm muscles are, how strong your back is. All those things are going to factor in, but just learn how to do it with good form in the way that best suits your body. And you're going to be in the front leaning rest position, okay, a lot. So if I were you, I would put myself in the front leaning rest position at home for as long as you can, as often as you can. That's what I did for push-ups. Every single time I walked by my green mat in here, I would just do push-ups. And when I went there, I knew how to do a lot more push-ups than I thought that I'd ever be able to do. So that's my 2 tips for like working out. So do I suggest that you go there never having worked out before? I don't care what your recruiter says. No, I would not suggest that, because you're going to be at the back of the pack. And let's say you're not good at any other thing. Now, when I say good, let's say that you're struggling with other things like, at the range, or just you're struggling with all the other graduation requirements. You don't want to add you not being able to pass the ACFT on top of that. And they make you run to do everything. Like you're running, especially when we first got there, you're running to the trash can, you're running to take out the mail, you're running everywhere. You're not allowed to walk in red phase. In red phase, it's a few weeks. Or if it's like us, it's carries into when white phase is supposed to be. You have to know how to run, okay? Let's move on to the next. This is the next thing, and I did not go to AIT, but this is something that they told us in basic training that I didn't hear from the recruiter or anybody else. That is, if you fail out of your MOS, you could be recycled to infantry. So let's say you're a 68 whiskey and you love that job. You've always wanted to do that job, but you can't quite get through the schooling. They can put you in infantry, and there's nothing that you can do about it, okay? You are an infantryman now. Okay, so, and then they have other MOSs that are, you know, maybe you need like a top security. They're very like MOSs, the ones that everyone want. And let's say they don't want you in the program. Let's say you get there and you're just not, you know, an upstanding soldier as they expect you to be, and you're just, you know, you're just doing a lot. Or let's just say they don't like you. I'm just gonna be honest. Let's say they don't like you. They can fail you out of the program and you can be recycled to infantry, okay? So these are just some things that I put in here to let you know that I did not know, that were very like eye-opening once I got there, because at that point you can't do anything about it. So that's it for this video. I just want you to make an informed decision, and don't be left like in the dark. Do realize that this is not a decision that you make hastily. You know, it's not something that you do just off the seat of your pants, because it's a life, it could be a life altering decision either way, both for the good and for the bad. And like I said, I witnessed a lot of people get there and not realize that, you know, the weight that this decision would have on their life, and it didn't really go good for them, okay? I was put in a position where I was able to chapter out without like getting in trouble, dishonorable, or anything like that. But that doesn't happen for everyone, okay? So like I said, I want you to make an informed decision. That's why I am making this video. As always, if you have a question, ask a question, and I'll see you in the next one.